right? Things that transform within us that don't need to be psychologized, can't be psychologized. And this is the beauty and the mystery of the body, because the body is, in my opinion, it's scientific, but it's also spiritual. There are things in it that can't be measured. There are things that we don't know yet. And almost like, what a relief. That's how I felt when I did the yoga therapeutics, was like, what a relief that I don't actually have to know every detail. What a relief that I'm leaning on a like a sacred third, like a partner, a consciousness that knows more than I do.
Hello, friend. I am so honored to bring you this rich and grounding conversation with the wonderful Sarah Tacy, nervous system specialist and somatic guide. This dialogue is less of an interview and more of just a soft landing. Sarah has a way of inviting us out of urgency and into presence with stories that open our heart and somatic wisdom that speaks to the soul. We talked about healing through body, reclaiming the power of slow, the gift of co-regulation, and what it means to live from resourced sovereignty. Give yourself a breath. Let yourself settle. This one is medicine. Hi, friend. If you've been dreaming about bringing your women together around beauty, truth, and transformation, this is your invitation. At Goddess of Light curated retreats, the heartbeat is the breath. The sacred space we create is anchored in transformational breathwork, infused with Reiki, and organic homemade meals prepared with care, intention, and love. These retreats are designed to melt armor, restore nervous systems, and awaken the deep knowing that's been waiting just beneath the surface. I offer 3 powerful ways we can co-create. Drop-in facilitator. I join your retreat to lead one potent breathwork and Reiki session or ceremony. This is the perfect way to elevate an already beautiful gathering with deep energetic anchoring. Full weekend presence. I stay with your group throughout the retreat, offering guided breathwork, Reiki, meditations, energy support, and presence, woven into every part of the weekend, including cacao ceremonies. Full retreat facilitation and production. I create the entire retreat for you. The space, the chef, the rhythm, the healing, all of it, every aspect. You gather your women, I hold everything else. This is for leaders who want to nourish and be nourished. For those who know it's time to come together and want to do this with elegance and ease and soul, this is for you. If your heart's been calling for this, you can reach out to me, Siri@sageblushwellness.com, or DM me on Instagram @Siri Baruch Thornton. Let's create something unforgettable. Welcome to The Authentic Creative, where we expand our capacity to feel good, one deep breath, one bold choice, and maybe a little bit of magic at a time. I'm Siri Baruch Thornton, healer, creative, and lifelong explorer of all things energy, self-expression, and joy. With over 26 years of experience in Reiki, Akashic Records, and transformational breathwork, I've learned that feeling good is not a luxury, it's a practice. And sometimes it's a little messy. This podcast is here to help you trust your intuition, break the rules, the ones that need breaking, and live more fully in your gifts. So give yourself a deep breath, get cozy, and let's dive in. I am so delighted because I have Sarah Tacy here, nervous system specialist and somatic guide. Sarah Tacy helps high-achieving visionaries move out of survival mode and into sovereign embodied expression. With over 20 years of experience in nervous system regulation, somatic repatterning, and mind-body healing, Sarah guides clients from burnout and depletion into clarity, vitality, and resonance. Her work blends scientific precision with intuitive depth, integrating nervous system intelligence, trauma-informed practice, and sacred somatic tools. She has trained previous Olympians, supported CEOs through collapse and reinvention, and held space for women reclaiming their voice, power, and pleasure after years of suppression. At the heart of Sarah's work is a core belief. Your body is not the obstacle. It's the oracle, a no BS GPS. Through her signature programs like Resourced and immersive retreats like Juice, Sarah offers a grounded path back to self-trust, aliveness, and sustainable expansion. She is known for her rare ability to make safety feel sacred, pleasure feel practical, and transformation feel truly possible. I am so excited about you and who you are and how you show up in the world and the work that you're doing in the world, Sarah. So I just want to say, first of all, thank you. I'm so honored that you're here. I love your new office background. It's so beautiful and
Thank you.
exciting. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Thank you for honoring us with your time. I just want to share that I first met you. I feel like I've known you, but I first met you in this particular moment of life in Kat Caldwell Meyer's panel that we did together. And then I saw you again in Kate Northrup's relaxed money program that I'm doing with my husband. And I was like, I recognize this background. I recognize this woman. How do I know her? And I started to put the pieces together that I had met you on a panel. And I just knew right away that I wanted to talk to you on the authentic creative. And I want to share with our audience why, and I will let you speak, but I want to share with them why I felt so drawn to sharing your body of work on the podcast. And when you worked with us in Relaxed Money, and we're still going, but the first several times that you've worked with us have just been so revolutionary for me. I first, yes, as a lot of people do, was having some reaction to how slow you were speaking, intentionally speaking slow. And I was like, ooh, this is hard to be with for just, at first I was like, this is really, I want to like pick up my phone. I want to like look around and find a distraction. And I know for my husband, for Jake, every time we work with you, he just goes into like a meditative trance. He says he doesn't even realize what's happened.
Yes.
And for me, I immediately the mirror neurons started firing, and the repurposing of that nervous system tool of speaking slowly just immediately copied into my system. And on this podcast, people may have noticed if they've been listening for a while, I started speaking slower
Mm.
and like really slowing down, especially with these last several Reiki episodes. So, all of that being said, welcome. Hi, how are you?
Thank you. I am doing so well. I would also say that, similar to many women, I am a recovering people pleaser. And so when I do things that I know are going to activate some systems, like speaking slowly on purpose, it takes a great amount of being steady in myself to be in a field with over 400 people tuned in, knowing that every system is going to respond differently
Yeah.
by pacing. And also knowing that the more I tune to my nervous system, the more I tend to it, the more choice I have in my pace and my rhythm. And so there can be great health in fast, like, I'm so excited to be here, right? And there can be this really meditative trance that happens when we go slow. And in some somatic exercises that I lead clients through, the slower we speak, often the more nuances we can pick up in our lived experience within our body. So we often tend to notice things that are a little bit more surface when we're going fast. And as we go slow, some deeper things that we didn't notice, many people don't notice before, will arise, which is both a gift and a burden. So there's a reason why society goes fast. It's programmed that way so that we might not notice that we have needs that are unmet. And when we start to slow down, the discomfort. So some people are like, oh, this feels so good. And some people, the discomfort is like, oh, you may have seen in the comments, a lot of people say, I'm starting to feel really sad. I'm starting to feel it's like these emotions that haven't had time to show up
Yes, me
will begin to
included. One
show
of one of the
themselves.
days I was just crying as soon as yes, yes.
Hmm. And it's not unusual, even the way that we parent. I am like super guilty of this. I feel like no matter how much preparation I give my girls every morning,
Yeah.
there's still the like, we gotta get out to the car, we
Yeah.
gotta get to school. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm guessing that there are many of us through schooling with like timed tests, um, sports, uh, generally being within a family that all may have different schedules, that there often wasn't time to really be with the waves. So when we're with the waves, they come and they go. But when we don't have time, they just come and they get pushed down.
Yeah. This urgency culture and the conditioning is it's so deep and it's so expansive, the amount of ways that we feel rushed for no reason. And of course, we have to be on time for things.
Yeah. And some of the urgency is self-created. It feels really real.
Yeah.
And I have been my own boss for almost 20 years, so I know that my case is not the same with others, but there are times where I'm like, I'm going to start my podcast on February 7th. And then the launch is going at a pace and things come up in life. And then I have to realize, because there could be the shame I have behind like not following through with exactly what I promised of, oh, I have choice. Choice is one of the top nervous system tools that there is I call it pause, feel, choose. So we pause. Is this really real? Is it 100% real? Is there any nuance? Is there any place I have choice? Oh, and I might realize that some of it is made up. Some of it is self-inflicted.
There's
Some
no
of it is
tiger.
not actually, there's no tiger. It's not actually the end of the world. And when I do that, the response I get from people around me is not, how dare you? Although some people might feel triggered by it. I have had a lot of people come up and say, wow, I actually feel so much permission now
Yeah.
to take care of my needs or to make a change or to support myself differently. And so the more we do it, just again, pausing, feeling, choosing, is this urgency real? Is there, and we can opt out of urgency without, it's not always bound if we opt out of urgency to then hurting somebody else. Sometimes it's thought like if we don't do this, somebody else has to pick it up, or if we don't do this, somebody else is like, it's, it can be a win-win scenario.
Right. It's like you're inviting them and you're honoring your wholeness of what feels good. And then you're inviting them into that as opposed to going into their chaos or both being in chaos. Hey, we're going to pause here for just a moment. What's the thing that's never getting better? The thing that keeps you up at night? The loop you can't seem to break free from? Bring it to our Akashic record reading session. This isn't just a reading, it's a sacred conversation with your soul, with your team, your masters, teachers, and loved ones and guides. A place where the deepest parts of you are seen, heard, and understood. What happens in a session? You receive the clarity you've been searching for. You get the validation for what you've been feeling but couldn't quite name. You experience an energy clearing, releasing lower vibrational and stuck emotions so you can move forward lighter, freer, and more aligned. What if the answers you've been seeking are already waiting for you? In this space, you can finally breathe, release, and receive the relief you've been craving. One session or a package are available over Zoom from anywhere in the world. It's time to lift the weight off your heart. Say yes to clarity. Say yes to relief. Message me to book your Akashic record reading today. Link in the show notes. And we're back. Both being in chaos. I, this morning, Sarah, feel particularly dysregulated. The irony of having you on with the amount of dysregulation I'm having this morning. But it's all perfect. I'm like, okay, maybe that's just perfect. So people that are listening can know, yeah, we're so human and that's okay. And we're going to be dysregulated sometimes. And it's not, I think this is a common thing. It's not about always being calm. It's not about always feeling, we're not going to always feel calm and safe and secure and grounded and stable and all the things we want to feel at all times, right? There's
Yeah,
like
I
a
mean,
flexibility.
one of the things that life is about, I think, is growth. And I think it might be Tony Robbins who says, if you're not growing, you're dying, something like that. And that may also appear physiologically if we're not creating new neural synapses, especially after the age of 35, that there's deterioration. So there is this like uh, a need to grow. And often how we grow is by old ways not working. And when old ways don't work, it often sends us into dysregulation because we don't know the new way forward.
Right.
And so
Yes.
dysregulation can be a sign of, or I would even say an invitation
Yeah.
to, ooh, I don't know the way forward right now.
Right.
And then we open up the reticular activating system, that part of our brain stem that allows us to see what we've always seen or possibly see something new by asking a question. And so we ask a question such as, show me, which is a phrase I borrow from Bridget Vixen's. Just show me, surprise and delight me with a way I am totally unfamiliar with
Oh,
something new, with something updated. I often say, like, may I, may I see another option that is not clear right now? And as soon as we start asking these questions, we begin to live into the answers. And so I say that when we are in our range of regulation or in our range of resonance, it's not about being calm. It's about the ability to be in the unknown. This is a big
right.
one for me, by the way, because last year on module 6 of my resource course, we were doing double binds, I must, I can't, and trying to find the sacred third. So in my
Mm.
mind, everybody who was in this course, I really wanted them to find their sacred third. I wanted them to find an answer in this session. And what I recognized while I was in this session was like, that is not the point. The
Okay.
point of this work is to be able to withstand the unknown
Yeah.
and to follow the signs and to follow the breadcrumbs. And that takes a certain amount of resourcing and capacity and support because our body and our security system loves the known.
Okay, those words, let's break them down. So, resourcing. Some people don't know what you mean when you say that. I love that word.
Yes, that's the name of my course. And it's coming up again in September. And here's why I fell in love with this word.
Okay.
I first give such honor to anybody in my life who defines something that could be otherwise difficult and complex in the simplest terms possible. So when we think about stress, we could get a physiological definition that would tell you everything that's happening in the sympathetic nervous system, the biochemistry. But the simplest definition I ever received was from this man, Jerry Molitor, who my husband and I work with every Friday.
Mm.
And he said, stress is when you have more demands than resources.
Yeah.
And so if we show up to a session, it's like, I don't know why we feel stressed. And we start talking about our life because so often we don't even recognize the things that are stacking. He'd be like, oh, that makes sense. Your demands are higher than your resources.
Mm.
And I began to think about what are resources. And I really like to uncouple the word resource from meaning that you must have money.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
we can resource ourselves. People who have a spiritual practice might do it through Reiki. They might do it through having a spiritual team. People who are really tied to nature might do it by leaning up against a tree.
Yes.
People who love their breath practice might just take a breath, then listen to their heart. Ah, choice, right? There are all these. I have a program. I'm just going to
And
keep plucking from
you
them.
just did an
I
audible sigh, which is my new favorite thing.
Oh, I do this all the time, by the way. I work with somebody, and now that I'm next to somebody, I realize how often I sigh and I moan, and I can
Yeah.
get away with it when I'm on my own by myself. And when I'm in the company of another, I'm like, oh. I make a lot of sounds,
Yeah.
which I love. I love,
Right.
but also I'm like, this feels a little excessive. So, yes, resourcing is a way that we begin to support our nervous system. And I feel it's a very multidimensional practice. It doesn't have to come in one way. So, yes, we can get resourced. If, if I can afford to have a babysitter, that is a major resource, right?
Mm-hmm.
It could also come through a neighbor. It
Mm-hmm.
could come through a grandparent.
Mm-hmm.
Having finances can be very resourcing. And people with a lot of finances, most of them that I know, have a lot of stress, have a lot of demand. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not unusual. The more finances somebody has, the more people are relying on them. So it could be more employees, more clients. And so it can actually feel like so many things that you're juggling and working out. So, resourcing again, though finances can be part of it, when I'm talking about it within the nervous system world, it's where else? It's not exclusive but it's where else can I pull from that really helps me feel in my body, grounded and with choice.
I remember you saying one of your favorite resources or ways of being resourced is calling a friend,
Oh,
which is free.
it's free. Yeah. And I will say, I have done this in a paid way too. So, Jerry, who my husband and I see on Fridays, he says to all of his clients, if you're feeling dysregulated, please call me.
Mm.
His phone almost never rings. Because I would think, like, oh, that would be a boundary violation if I had all my clients just calling whenever they want. And his whole thing is that most of us, many of us, and possibly many of his clients, grew up in such an independent way. I will figure this out. I've got this. For me, it would be I would do my yoga practice. I will do my breathing practice. I will do my gestalt journaling. I will figure this out. And once I am calm, I will write about the silver lining. Like
Yeah, yep,
um,
yep.
this is, this is opposite of like go up to your room and when you feel better, come down. This is while you're in the mess, reach out and notice what it's like to reach out to a stable other who will listen and then reflect back. So he doesn't really even advice give. It's just he listens, reflects back. It's a quick call.
Yeah.
And I almost have never I've made him a few times. And then I reached out to a friend to say, hey, how do you feel about doing these 8-minute calls? Like if you have an SOS or I have an SOS, um, just to help get the reps in because I am really good at self-soothing. And it turns out if I'm looping, which means that I go up into a space where I don't feel like I have choice and my emotions are stronger than my ability to self soothe, co regulation with a stable other is, in my experience, the fastest way back down.
Yeah, and I love the fact that what he's saying is, I'm here. And what you're saying is, people don't necessarily need to use that line of support. They just need to know it's there and it's enough, which
I
is
would,
so cool.
it's so cool. I would say it's not that they don't need to use it, it's that it's not a nervous system pattern that they have. And so I would actually say like one of the greatest challenges. It's like, oh, we can do it when we're paying him and we're in session and the time is put down. But to just make that call when we're in a loop, when we might have family members that we call who we know are going to be like, oh, yeah, that's so bad. Like they're going to like
Mm,
amplify it
mm, mm.
to call someone stable. I would say that it's not silent because people just need to know he's there. It's silent because it's so uncomfortable to call while dysregulated.
To see me in my mess. Yeah.
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 Not in my like, I've got it all figured out and here's what's happening. And, to just be like, oh, yeah, I'm having a moment.
Yeah, I think it's really important to have at least one person or several people that you feel like they can see you in your mess and that there's not a mask that needs to be held. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And what I often tell clients, And actually, my first guest when on my I have a podcast called Threshold Moments, and my very first guest, when he was talking about becoming relational, I was listening to his story, and it was like, well, first it's like relational with nature. And then it's, it was like, and I think he did like CrossFit, but he did it watching like a video and then like logging his information with a community. So it was kind of virtual. And then it was like hiking with others. So it's like parallel playing, right? And it's like, how do we, if we don't have a friend we can call, what are the small steps towards being relational that feel healthy, non-threatening, and supportive? So that it's not like, oh, shoot, I don't have that person right now. I'm doomed. But like, do you have a tree? Is there an online community? Is there a gym that you can go to where you can just like work out next to somebody? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, just like the little ways that we can find relational health and not have to rush into anything, really.
I want to back up, and this is all incredible, and I feel like we could go down so many avenues with everything you're sharing. I want to back up and just learn a little bit about you. So, did you grow up in Maine? What were you interested in as a child? What were you like as a child? Were your parents together? Did they divorce? Will you just give us a little insight into your world?
Yes, nobody's ever asked me this before. So happy, I'm like, wow. Um, so I grew up in Exeter, New Hampshire, which is an
Okay.
hour south of where I live now. So I've always lived coastal. Even when I was in college, I could see the water from the lacrosse field and always near the ocean. Um, I would also say that when I did have hard moments in high school, I would drive to the ocean and just sit there, and it would help me feel that my issue is just so small in comparison to the
Hmm.
universe. It like gets to be there fully, but also perspective. So, um, I grew up, and I always say it was like a very, I don't think this is actually a phrase, but I say like a meat and potatoes, as like normal as you can be. Like I say this in the way of like I never had a mango, I never had Indian food, I never had an avocado. It was like what was the food that was local at that time.
Okay.
I grew up in a Protestant church where I went every Sunday, and the it was always a husband and wife minister, and the wife's brother was gay, and so like I just feel like the church was very just like there was a man and there was a woman. There was like everybody is accepted. So it would just all um I played sports, and I never really knew a difference between like being a male or a female in access because my mom made sure that she like created the travel team for me, for us, for the town, right? She made sure that there was a rec league for girls because she saw
Wow.
so many girls before me dropping out. And so was really into sports. I was a high performer, meaning I loved I
So,
loved getting good feedback about things, right? And so I that actually led to, some performance anxiety, and that led to many, many injuries, especially in high school.
what kind of were you
Eventually,
in lacrosse or
I
track or?
played soccer,
Okay.
lacrosse, and basketball, and then I went
Okay.
to college for lacrosse.
Okay.
I was supposed to play soccer and lacrosse, except I had a pretty major back injury my senior year.
Oh,
And that,
tell us about that.
yeah, yeah. So, I took so much pride in playing through my injuries. I just thought it was so tough.
Mm,
And the doctors would say, like, don't let her play more than 5 minutes. And I would just get put in a different position on the field, and I'd play the whole game, and I would limp my way through school. And I would get a tenacity award in basketball, like the most tenacious
right.
player, right? Like that meant
Rewarding.
everything to
Yeah.
me. And eventually what happened is I had a back injury, and I couldn't walk. I couldn't sit. They had to have a reclining chair on the side of the field, and I would just like lay and watch my team play. It was
Ugh.
painful to do
Ugh.
homework. I couldn't go out with friends. I couldn't sleep over anywhere. I started taking a whole bunch of medications, some of which are no longer legal.
Wow.
Um, and I just lost everything. I lost everything I identified with, and I had my first foray into chronic pain and depression.
Wait, so was
Um,
this your junior or your senior year of high
this
school?
was my senior year.
Okay. Senior
Yeah.
year of high school, you cannot do anything. You feel like you've lost everything. And how long did that go on for?
So a year later, so it was like, again, I was supposed to play soccer, and first day of soccer doubles in college, I like could barely get out of bed. And so that was heartbreaking. I had never not made a team. Um, but through that, I got to learn like, oh, there's more to life than sports. It allowed me to go abroad to Italy and
Oh, wow.
my junior year, but it also just like, oh, there's there again more to life. And um, a year later, I was going to visit my friend who lived in Hawaii, and I went down to reach for my bag, and my back went out again,
Oh,
and I like fell to the floor, and I have no idea how my dad got there, but he like heard me scream, and like he like ran. Like it doesn't even make sense how he got there, and just like caught me before I hit the floor.
wow.
And my parents and my sports medicine doctor, who at this point I was babysitting for because I had so many injuries. I was babysitting for his kids.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Not for him. Yeah.
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 And they were like, well, you can be in pain here in New Hampshire in January or on the beaches of Hawaii.
Oh,
And
wow. That's a
that's
good
where my friend
option.
lived.
My
So
eye is twitching just hearing your story.
yeah.
I'm just like,
So
Sarah, oh my
I
gosh.
took all the medication, the Vioxx, that's the one that's no longer legal, muscle relaxants. And I get to Hawaii and I get off the plane, and my best friend's mother, my recollection is that she says no more meds. My best friend was like, my mom would never tell you that. This is my memory. And she pulls over to the side of the road, and it's nighttime, and we just like strip off all of our clothes, which again, where I grew up, you don't get naked in front of people.
Hmm.
We strip off all of our clothes and we go swimming in the ocean in the moonlight and just like wash it off, right? And the remainder of that trip, she lived at the top of one of the mountains on Maui. There was a yoga book.
I love
Yeah.
Maui. Oh,
Yeah, no, Maui was where my healing began. It changed everything in my life.
wow.
I look at this book on yoga and I'm just thinking this is yoga, because I don't know what it is. So it's like whatever this book is, this is the so it's like, okay, inhale, arms forward, exhale. And I'm in a yoga studio that's like off the side of her rental. That's just to
Wow.
myself. And
Wow.
reading this book and trying to do it. And then we go and we visit these men who have both healed themselves of basically from paralysis through visualization. And
Wow.
uh-huh. And they start teaching me about creative visualization.
Mm.
People do Reiki on me. People do Watsu on me, which is it's generally in like 98 degrees water, and you just like let your body like sway back and forth like you're a baby in the womb and everything
Yeah.
is supposed to. Two sisters had just finished their reflexology course, and they were like going through town and stopped off at Ziox place. And so like I'm getting body work all night from the like variety of people, and like
Angels.
and I'm
Wow.
just getting and I in college I had way more to say than my other friend Sarah. Her name is also Sarah.
Okay.
And here on Maui, like she was so alive and pulling over to the side of the road and putting flowers in her hair. And this was like, these were her people and her thing. And you can imagine how Connecticut energy would not match this. And I am silent for 10 days because I am just in shock. In the morning, I go outside, and one of the people are just, again, like naked, sitting on the cliff with like a sarong over their head, meditating. So I just go up, strip off my clothes, put a sarong on, sit with the rising sun, and then we dive in this like salt water hot spring.
Uh,
And and they were vegetarian. And so for the first time in my life, I was like, what is a wheatgrass shot? What are these mangoes they're pulling off? And they're having avocado on toast, things I hadn't had or done or seen.
mhm.
They offered me Indian food. I was like, what? Um,
My favorite.
and
Yeah, love it.
the pictures of before and after, I didn't know it then, but when I went, I was so swollen, my whole body. And by the end, all of the swelling was gone. I was supposed to go home and get a cortisone shot in my back, and I was only 18,
Mhm.
19 at that point. And I went back without any medication in my system. I got to cancel that appointment for the cortisone shot.
Hmm.
And I went back and did Rolfing as part of my
Oh, wow.
therapy while playing lacrosse in college. And I did Watsu and I did creative visualization. And then I started having more experiences with energy flowing through me. And really, through this process, I got such a clear understanding of the mind body connection. When my body is in pain, my mind sees things differently.
Yeah.
And I started to really feel the way that energy and the intelligence of energy is working through my body and how I can aid it and it can aid me and become more of a mutual partner with this consciousness that seems to be way more intelligent than me. It was all, it was nothing I would have learned from growing up where I grew up, and everything from just being in awe of what some of these people around me were showing me, and then what presented itself to me over the years.
Hmm. Your story is incredible. I love the fact that there's all this contrast of pushing through. And I imagined that there was something on the other side of where you are today. And clearly there was. And that's a huge dramatic experience that you had that was this major catalyst that now we all get to benefit from you having gone through that horrible experience, which became the most blessed experience. I love it. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and it was so helpful for me too. So I ended up doing yoga therapeutics for 15, 20 years, teaching multidimensional yoga anatomy. So to really include not just the bones and the muscles, but also the breath and the energy and what I call emotional anatomy, where every posture we take has a different hormonal and biochemical and emotional resonance. And people who said like were told they'd never walk again. I would should say like they're walking, but were walking in pain, couldn't stand to brush their teeth, were then riding their bikes, hiking mountains because I had this really, really deep knowing that it's useful for me to have a lot of tools and educate myself. But at the end of the day, when I ask questions and we both listen deeply, we're going to get more information of what I would call creating space and support on the multidimensional planes. And I would say miracles happen, right? Slowly over time. Um, People really grew into new possibilities from what they
Mhm.
were told was their limitation.
Wow.
And this was such a huge part of, yeah, going through that pain. And the other part that I know when people would come to me with chronic pain was how it's so much more than the physical pain that they're feeling, right? How much it affects our emotions and how much our emotions affect how we see things.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know Kate talks a lot about this misconception that a lot of us have of thinking that it's the thoughts and then the emotions. But more recently, we're all starting to, a lot of us, understand and honor and know and experience that it's really the body that holds the score and that the body and the emotions are the beginning. The nervous
Hmm.
system is the beginning of everything, and then the thoughts. But that it can be like this feedback loop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I would say it can go either way. And I wish I could remember the man. It was like 150 years ago that somebody allowed themselves to slow down enough to really feel and sense into when a sensation comes through, did it start with a thought or did the sensation come first? Because it's milliseconds, which now they can measure through electronics, but he was really having to tune in. And so what he surmised was if I see a bear, I don't first think, oh, shoot, bear. And then my body has a response. The body has a non-verbal, non-cognitive response. And then the brain puts a story to it.
Mm, yeah.
And if we have stories on loops, then it can affect the body, right? So it is a cycle that can loop around, a self-feeding cycle. Um, and there is so much to really tending to the body. And there are so many times where we have emotions. I see this especially with my daughter. I've seen it in myself too, where we have emotions and then we try to figure out why those emotions are there.
Yep.
Why do I feel sad today? So we had chickens and a fox got into their coop. This was a couple years ago. And so for about a year and a half after that, every time she was sad, she'd go, I just miss the chickens. Right. It was because it was like the
The
clearest reason
associated, yes.
of why she would be sad. And so it was like the easiest story to put on to sadness.
It's funny, I was thinking the chicken or the egg as
Yeah.
the
No, but it would like might be like more obvious to me of like, oh, her dad went away on a work trip, or like, oh, this hard thing just happened with her friend, or this like really immediate thing happened, or um, there are other instances I would say for people where on the anniversary
Yeah,
of something hard happening,
yeah,
their bodies will start to reprocess grief
yeah.
before the person even notices the date. So
Right.
before the story comes up of like, oh yeah, last year at this time, this hard thing happens. The body, I don't actually know the reason why. I mean, I would say, I guess it's more like awe-inspiring why.
Mm-hmm.
That the body might say, oh, at this time of year, something unsafe happens because this is how
Mm-hmm.
our body tries to protect us. Something bad happens in the past. It wants to protect us. And so we start, yeah. And so it can actually do that with time as well.
Oh my gosh, so many things are firing off. Two things I'm thinking. One, I'm thinking about funerals and death and passing and how it's often an opportunity to grieve everything that hasn't been grieved. And it's like a permission slip, like when a pet or an animal or anyone passes, that all of a sudden now the doors are open and we're going to grieve the whole year or the whole 10 years or our whole life worth, it's like there's those associations. And then the other thing I'm thinking about is the kind of ancestral patterning of like my husband's father's birthday is on December 25th. And so every year there'd be drama in between his parents and the family, and it was really stemming from his dad. And what's that about his birth and Christmas? And now the holidays and his birthday are like cut like bleeding into our family has like creations, so it's and all compassion to his dad because of course he had whatever trauma he had. But it's just interesting how these times of years, what you're talking about, like that can get passed down. It was a hard time for mom, so now it's a hard time for me, and so now it's a hard time for my kids. And I think, well, I know that with the tools that you share, Sarah, that we can start to create a new story.
This may be an obvious, study, and I'm not going to get it exactly correct. I haven't read it in a long time. So I'm going to give a general feel of epigenetics because the story you told is one in which your husband lived patterns that were associated with his father's experience and his mother's experience. And so it makes sense that his body would pass down that at this time there is stress. And so therefore his body needs to respond to stress at this time. And there was, I'm so sorry if I don't get all the details right. Um, there's a study about the mice and the cherry blossoms, right? Where it's like they have this smell associated with a certain cheese, and then the mice eat it, but they've put some toxins into it. And so each time a mouse eats it, they get really sick.
Mhm.
Then they stop doing that, and the mice have babies. Now, the babies have never seen the parents get sick off of it. But the babies, when they go in, like without, they keep the parents separate. So they don't see that the parents aren't eating it. And they just know that they've eaten cheese all these other times. Cherry blossoms smell good. Um, but actually, the cherry blossoms don't smell good to them, right? Like anytime, like they will not come near that smell or eat the cheese that smells like it. And so for 3 generations, that pattern continued without any of them knowing why.
Yeah.
Their bodies are just repulsed by it. And so, what is wild is to think that all of us, most likely, are running on patterns that even if we go down to our early childhood, it's not the full story.
Yeah.
It tends to be generations.
Yeah.
And so this is why when I'm just like, pause, feel, choose, it's like, is this real now? Is this true now? Do I have choice? Is this the pattern I want to continue? How do I need to want to resource myself in this moment to come back into my body? And will I repeat this pattern? And sometimes you know that there's a better pattern to do, but you repeat it anyway. And in the 4 steps of learning, which is the unconscious incompetence, we can move to the conscious incompetence. We're like, I know there's a better choice, but I'm still going to yell at my kids on Christmas. I can't help it. I'm so stressed. Then there's the conscious competence, which is just like, I took a breath. I made a different choice. And of course, nothing is linear. So we probably like go through those 3 quite often. And then the unconscious competence is this really beautiful place where we come to completion with a pattern. So we don't even have to resource ourselves in order to stay calm or in order to have choice or in order to get back into our body when the stressful thing happens. It's like it didn't even trigger us. It no longer is associated with our body. And that can be a miracle. And it can be such a miracle and happen through such small pieces over time that we don't even notice it when it happens until maybe someone reflects it to us or like we reflect back at the end of the day.
Mm.
It's a miracle, but it happens all the time.
It gives us such an ability to have this compassion of, when I teach Akashic Records, it's like looking at our past lives, we get to say, of course. And so and then this ability to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, be comfortable with the unknown is also so linked to understanding so much of what we don't know. Why we're crying in this one moment, why we're triggered or fearful, it's so fascinating how much we don't know, and how much we don't need to know in order to heal.
Yes. Yes. That's a huge thing. And in somatic work, and I assume in an energy work too, where images may come up that don't make sense or sensations come up that we don't yet have a story for, and to be like, great, we actually don't need to put a story on it. What does your body want now to feel more supported as we're with this image, as we're with this sensation? And things can pass through and heal without us actually having to control every element of it or understand each part of it.
And that is kind of a new paradigm in one sense. I mean, a lot of these ancient traditions have known this, but our culture is very used to therapy, and therapy is very much an analyzation process and a talking process, which has validity to it. But also in the self-growth world, we are starting to see that really it's the body that we need to address. That's going to be the hack of, let's not spend 20 years talking about this. Let's get it out. Let's feel it.
There was a great podcast. It's the Emerald podcast, and the episode was called "You Can't Psychology." I'll try to get this. It's "You Can't Psychologize." This, the revolution will not be psychologized.
Yeah.
And he speaks about how in certain cultures, we'll talk about drumming circles that happen in certain cultures and how there are certain things in us that can't or won't change until the third hour of the drums and the movement around a fire, right? And there is no story being told there. There are certain things that happen through art, through dancing, through being in nature, through hiking for multiple days, right? Things that transform within us that don't need to be psychologized, can't be psychologized. And this is the beauty and the mystery of the body, because the body is, in my opinion, it's scientific, but it's also spiritual. There are things in it that can't be measured. There are things that we don't know yet. and almost like, what a relief. That's how I felt when I did the yoga therapeutics, was like, what a relief that I don't actually have to know every detail. What a relief that I'm leaning on like a sacred third, like a partner, a consciousness that knows more than I do. What a relief that we're going to figure this out together. What a relief that we can both say, okay, this is unknown.
And we live in a culture where people accept God as this unseen entity, and yet there's this challenge with accepting the unseen miracles, the
Hmm.
unseen paths of healing. Science is catching up to spirituality and healing. It's so interesting that we're so easy to just believe in God and know God is a thing, and yet, like, oh, but if I place my hands on you, or if I send you good
Mhm.
intentions or good vibes or unconditionally loving energy, or, it's interesting where our invalidations have shown up over the years. I know we could talk for hours and hours. I want to
I
be
know.
conscious of your time. We are coming up to an hour here. So let's just pivot and just close out and just say maybe there'll be a part two. I would like to invite you to share the thing that is just like lighting you up so much right now that is part of your mission in the world.
Mm. I want to first say that I had a teacher who used to say her intention was world peace, and it just feels so big. And so I feel like laughing at myself when I say that my mission is liberation of women. Um,
Love
but it
it.
feels really tender. And um, so there's been a few phrases that have been like really strong for me, and one is suppression to expression. And part of that is that it's really normal in sessions that many women will have blocks in their throats, like they feel physical blocks in their
Yeah.
throats. They have pain around their neck. And I recently spoke to a peer who's done thousands of sessions over the years. And she's like, no, that's the system. That's like years of suppression. And so when I said earlier about how I'm actually really okay with all the like, all the moans and the sounds that I make, is looking for ways to have healthy fight outlets, healthy flight outlets, ways to just pause, feel, notice I have a sensation, notice I have a desire, and then actually speak it. These are really huge things of then helping women to move from I'm okay when you're okay to I'm okay when I'm okay. And now I can be relational. Now I can still be part of the web. And the idea that self care is, self care is valid in itself. And it is the key to sustainable leadership, to community care. And
Yes.
so for me, this is where the work is. This is why the work matters for the individual, but also for the reclamation of the feminine pleasure and the feminine voice and the feminine power. Um, and yeah, I mean, I could say that, and like I'm also so moved by my men. My husband leads men's group, and I'm like, whoa, this work is so needed, and holy smokes, like it's so much less of a lift when everybody's doing their work and not just, those who identify male or female. Like when we're all doing our work, we make it better no for anyone, no matter how they identify. So
Yeah.
I am really into finding healthy ways to express what's within us. And I do think that that is a path towards liberation.
Love it. Mm. And so, do you have any programs coming up that you want to invite anyone into that's feeling
Yes.
resonant with your mission, your
Yes.
message?
Okay. So first, if you go on my website, there is a free program called 21 Days of Support. And I thought, what is the easiest way to give people a little resource each day? And so they're so simple, and they're so just like, oh, I could do this in a minute or less, and it might help your day feel better, your body feel better. So that's one. Coming up in September, I'm going to be running a free 3-day workshop called Opting Out of Urgency. I'm so excited about this one.
Sarah, is your birthday in September?
No, it just
Okay.
passed. It was in June.
Okay.
My dad's birthday is in September.
Okay. Mine is too. All right.
In September or
So
June?
September.
Oh,
So
um,
so in September,
yes. I will be running a free 3-day program called Opting Out of Urgency. And I am so excited about this because, I always say pause is the number one, pause and choice are the top nervous system tools, in my opinion. And so when we learn to pause, we learn how to move out of global high intensity activation, the go, 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 the hustle, like small steps back into having choice of, will I have healthy fast, healthy slow? Just how does your day look? How do you feel in your body? That's day one. And day two is going to be about the sacred third. So when we're in a double bind of I must, I can't, the
Mhm.
sacred third is in a place where we resource ourselves, find the next right step, and it's all about being in the unknown. And day three is the relational element. When we notice we have a desire, when we start to come to I'm okay when I'm okay, and how do we stay in that uncomfortable place between familiar and optimal, in the place where what someone expects of us is no longer, the people pleasing is no longer there, that it can feel like a brick wall before a bridge. And so, how do we resource ourselves in that place? So, this is all urging out of urgent, urging, opting
Yeah,
out of
urging yourself out of
urgency, urging out of
urgency.
urgency. I have so many examples that let's just like lately, as I'm like, oh, I'm going to opt out of urgency here. Um,
Yes.
and a woman told Darden that I'm working with right now, and I was like, I feel like suppression to expression is too much to do with a really big group that I don't know yet. And she said, well, bad news. Whether you're doing opting out of urgency or suppression to expression, um, both, she was just saying this when I thought like one might be too much. She's like, they're both getting at the same thing, which is
Mhm.
it's supremacy culture. It's the thing that keeps us on the treadmill of life, feeling too busy to like really tap into what matters. And
Toxic
so again,
capitalism.
yeah. And like I'm not all against capitalism and I'm not all against like when there's a healthy reason why we need to like run to something or run for something. Um, but this is again, it's like really tuning in and having choice in it. And I think it is that way that we can feel good and empowered in our body. And empowerment is the opposite of trauma physiology. Before the someday, right? Someday when I have this, someday when I have that. Like we
Mhm.
can most likely get that now.
Mhm.
I say most
Amazing.
likely. It's like we can get that now, and everybody has their own journey there. So not, yeah.
Yeah, you're like easing into it. You're
Yeah.
urging into
Yes.
it. Okay, so we'll have information in the show notes for everyone. And do you want people to find you on Instagram, on your website, on your email?
Yes. So Instagram is Sarah Tacy T. My full Sarah Tacy Tangretti. So Sarah Tacy T is on Instagram. My website is sarahtacy.com and it's Sarah with an H, T as in Tom, A, C as in cat, Y.com. I have a podcast called Threshold Moments where I offer a lot of these nervous system tools. And that feels good for now. I'm really happy to be
Yeah.
here. Thanks for having me. And I too could talk to you forever. When you started talking about the God thing, I was like, oh, are we going there?
It's
Let's
part
do it.
two.
All right.
Oh, thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you
Yeah.
for listening. I imagine you guys have had some beautiful co-regulation moments with Sarah because I know I feel completely regulated now from where I
Mhm.
started, just being in her presence and her vibration and her aura and all of it. So, thank you so much for that. And I so look forward to continuing to learn from you and work with you and collaborate with you, Sarah. So thank you. And guys, keep expanding your capacity to feel good, one breath at a time. Loving you. See you
Mhm.
soon. Was that wonderful? I think so. I am still soaking in the calm and the clarity from the conversation with Sarah. Her presence alone is a reminder that transformation doesn't have to be loud or fast. It can be spacious and tender and slow. If you felt your nervous system exhale during this episode, you are not alone. Be sure to check out her free workshop, Opting Out of Urgency, coming in September, and the 21 days of support on her site is such a beautiful gift to start with. As always, keep expanding your capacity to feel good one breath at a time. Loving you. See you soon. Hey friend, if you are loving these conversations and feeling called to go deeper into your healing, your creativity, and your capacity to feel good, I would love to invite you to work with me. I offer one-to-one sessions that blend transformational breathwork with Reiki, Akashic record readings, and energetic healing, all designed to help you reconnect with your truth and power. And if you've been dreaming of retreating with other heart-led women in beautiful intentional space, the November 7th to 11th private custom retreat is already full, but the 2026 Goddess of Light retreats are now open for early registration. March 15th to 18th is our Akashic Certification Graduation Retreat. May 3rd to the 6th, we gather for Coming Alive. October 4th to the 7th, we are returning once again to Mount Hood Village, Oregon, for our Returning Home theme. Every retreat is infused with breathwork, Reiki, organic, incredibly healing meals by Marne from Bastion in Portland, and sacred space to reconnect with your essence, body, mind, and soul. If you're a leader, healer, or circle holder ready to bring your own group, I also curate custom private retreats, and we can dream something beautiful into being together. Currently, the May 3rd to 6th and the October 4th to 7th dates are up for grabs in terms of having your own private custom retreat at our Mount Hood Village, Oregon location. To learn more or get on the list, you can email me directly, siri@sageandblushwellness.com. I can't wait to breathe with you. Another opportunity for you is in Brentwood, California this August. Hosted by the amazing Rachel Blomberg at her beautiful PlateFit studio, I'd love to have you at our first degree Reiki certification on August 8th and 9th. 2 days of intuitive activation, nervous system support, and deep energetic grounding. On August 10th, I'll guide a transformational breathwork session to help you move stuck energy and reconnect with your truth. We'll also return to the same space in early October for second degree Reiki. If your heart's saying yes, email me, siri@sageandblushwellness.com to save your spot. I can't wait to be with you in that healing space. There is a place for you here. Until next time, keep breathing, keep listening, keep feeling. Your healing is a gift, it is a superpower, and you are already enough. Loving you.